Hey everybody, just a quick heads up. The thoughts and opinions in this episode are all mine and may not reflect those of our sponsors. So if you find yourself raising an eyebrow, blame me, not them. All right, let's go. Home sellers, not every home is picture perfect, and that's okay. If you've been holding back from selling your home because it's not quite ready, or maybe you don't have the time or the money or the desire to do a full court prep on this home, this episode is for you. So we run into a lot of sellers who think they have to have the perfect listing before they can stick the sign in the yard. We've had many sellers come to us almost kind of embarrassed, actually, that they have so much left to do that they don't even want to start the listing process. They're like, oh my gosh, I got this long to-do list. And some of them never sell. Some of them even sign up, pay us our flat fee, and then months and months go by, they still haven't put it on the market. So the good news is that there is no law that says you can't sell this place as is. But like all things, there is a right way and a wrong way to sell as is. So stick around today while we uncover the truth about the right way to sell your home as is, so you still get the most market value that you can. Hi, and welcome to Talking Realty, the go-to podcast for home sellers looking to make more money, save time, and avoid headaches. Whether you're selling a flip, a new build, an income property, or the place you call home, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Glen Whitten, 20-year broker and founder of the Ohio Property Group. Selling a home can be a complex and costly process that often leaves sellers feeling uncertain and overwhelmed. At the Ohio Property Group, we empower sellers to successfully reach the closing table while keeping more money, a lot more money, in their pockets. To learn more, head over to talkingrealty.com, pick up our monthly newsletter, or any of our free home seller tools. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. Now, let's get to it. As usual, I'd like to kick this off with a story of a recent seller. So we had this family, one family member of a family approached us because they were selling a house. I promise you, we will do an episode on what to do when the family has to sell the family home. So anyway, this family comes to me, the one representative who's in charge, and would like to know what all has to be done before they put this house in the market. And after a little back and forth, it becomes apparent that there's a committee and the committee meetings are not going so well. Everybody wants it done, but not very many people want to do anything other than just get it done. They don't want to take the time to go through the house. And it had a few problems, nothing too terrible. The point of it is they felt they were interviewing realtors and several of them had told them, no, you really need to do it the right way. You need to take your time, spend some money, get it updated, fix the problems, get it emptied, get it staged, get it photographed, and then you can sell it. Well, I gave them my standard line. We advise, you decide. Yes, if you want to get tippy top of market value for that particular property in that location, those are all the things you should do. And we'll talk about those in a minute here. But it doesn't mean you have to do those things. We've had plenty of sellers over the years who've just said, I don't care. Stick the sign in the yard and let's go. And I'm here to tell you, we can do that. And not only that, we can still maximize market value. You won't get what you would had you done all those other things, but it's no different than a house that needs a roof. You can sell it without the new roof and get less, or you can sell it with the new roof and get more and hope that you get more than the cost of the roof you just put on it. I am a huge proponent of doing a thorough prep course of the home before you try to sell it. In fact, we even did a whole digital course on it. It's mentioned a few times on this podcast. It's called Living to Listing. And it's all about how to prep the home to get top value for the house. If your situation means that you're not down for the whole decluttering, cleaning, repairing, updating, staging the whole house, then there is no reason why you should wait to sell. Waiting is certainly an option, but it's also not the only one. If you just want out of the property, you don't want to spend another minute or another dollar on it, I'm going to show you how to make that happen. But first, I want you to understand three things. Number one, selling as is doesn't mean you have to take fire sale prices. It's a big misconception. Number two, you'll get no pushback from me. We don't judge houses. We just sell them. We give advice, but then we stop. We advise, you decide. We just shut up and listen. So if you're interviewing prospective realtors and they're telling you, oh my God, I won't take this listing or I won't take it unless, move on. Okay. They're not your realtor. They're looking out for their own reputation. They don't want their friends and prospective clients to see that they put this house on the market without being staged, Well, that is a them problem. That's their image. That's their problem. As you know, we are the champions of the do-it-yourself market. So we feel like if a seller is in a situation where they need to sell or they just don't want to do all that stuff, that's fine. Let it happen. We will roll with it. We're in your corner no matter what. And last, here at the Old Ohio Property Group, we actually have a lot of experience selling as is because we don't have this image barrier that some of these other realtors have. And I don't necessarily blame them for it. That's their choice. That's their brand. They can do whatever they want with it. But we just don't have that hang up here. So we're not only going to take the listing, we're going to help you make the most of it when you do this. All right. So let's get down to business. What does as is mean? Because there's a lot of maybe some fuzziness around this. So the property is going to be sold in its current condition, no repairs, no updates, period. So buyers understand that they're going to take the house as is, and we're going to make that very clear to them. So any thoughts of coming in, giving you a price, getting it under contract, and then having negotiations 2.0 during the inspection phase, not going to happen. Okay, so we're going to not have our sellers negotiate during the inspection process. There are some very notable exceptions, which I will get to shortly. But for now, just assume that if it's selling as is, the buyer understands that it's as is, and the seller is in no mood and in no position many times to negotiate any further after they do any inspections. We also let the buyers know that they can and frankly should inspect the property all they want before they put their offer in, because we're not going to renegotiate later. We don't want them taking it thinking that they can renegotiate later. So it's very important that not only do we and the sellers understand we're not doing it, we need the buyer market to understand whatever price you come in with, that's the price. We're not fooling around with this later. So this isn't just for distressed properties. There's a big myth that if you're selling as is, this must be a pile of junk house. You know, there's an old line is that there's nice houses, there's fixer uppers, and then there's blower uppers, right? So if you think that putting the as is label on your house is going to hurt you, it just means that the seller isn't going to make any improvements before the sale. So maybe the property has some outdated decor, might have some minor cosmetic issues, might need some real updating, or maybe it's functionally obsolescent. You know, the old 4-bedroom house with 1 bathroom, that might be a situation where you want to sell as is. Or maybe the home has some larger projects. Maybe the HVAC has gone bad, or it's got plumbing or electrical or roofing issues. And the buyer needs to know that going in, but the seller is in no mood or position to do anything about it. So they just want to let it go. You could also be, so as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to the planning for this, one thing you might consider, one avenue you might consider, I did a whole episode, actually I probably did more than one episode on offer deadlines, on setting offer deadlines to maximize multiple offers. This is a great case for that type of situation. Set an offer deadline for a week out. Tell everyone to get their due diligence done before the deadline. Because not only are you not going to renegotiate after inspections, you're not even going to accept offers that have an inspection contingency. So in that case, having that week-long deadline allows buyers to get in ahead of the deadline with their contractor, or maybe they themselves are experts, or they want to bring an inspector, whatever. It allows them to get all that done before the offer deadline. So now they're eyes wide open, they're buying as is, and you're getting an offer that has no inspection contingency. Pardon me. And if somebody does get cute and try to, you've stated all this and they sneak one in on you, you could do a couple things. If it's a really great offer, I would just call them up and say, hey, what would you like? We'll take your offer, but I'm striking out the entire inspection section. We've already made it clear we're not doing that. If they walk away or lower their offer, fine. But at least you haven't put something on paper you're going to regret. There's a couple of other things we can talk about that will improve your odds of success with this. So moving on, why would a seller choose to sell as is? And there are 3 sort of buckets of reasons why that might happen. The first is time constraints. The second would be emotional barriers. And the third would be financial realities. So time, emotions, and money. So under time is that they need to sell quickly. So they got a job relocation, they got a divorce going on, they've got a financial challenge, maybe a foreclosure is impending, or maybe just financially things are tough and they need to get out from under this. So they don't, that's a time and money, but mostly a time. They got to move fast. Another is an estate where either you're inheriting the property or mom and or dad are moving into assisted living and you need to liquidate the house in order to pay for all these things. So two different situations, but similar origins. So that's another reason. Maybe the heirs can't agree on anything except that we want it sold. That's a case where time is not on your side and you just need to get moving because things are going from bad to worse among the heirs. You've also got no-touch flippers. Maybe they've got a loan due, hard money, balloon payment, something like that coming up. They bought the house, they're trying to sell it, and they need to move it before the expense of the house starts to skyrocket. And this happens quite often in the flipping world. So they don't want to rehab it. They don't want anything. They just want to get it on the market, sell it as is. They possibly got their own private deal put together that was never on the broader market. They got a sweet deal, but they can't move it privately. So they decide to go ahead. Let's list it. Let's sell it as is. See if we can't make some money or salvage this deal. Another time/location would be an out of town seller. They live way far away. Maybe they inherited the house, or maybe it's a house they were hanging on to for one reason or another, but they live too far away. They don't have time to come back and forth to manage the rehab, to manage the fix-ups, to manage the whole process. They just want to sell it. Call me up. Hey, Glenn, I live in XYZ state, which is not Ohio, but I got this house I want to get rid of. Great. We're off to the races. So under the second heading, which is emotional barriers, some of it can come from the heirs, but there's also a lot of trauma when a parent or loved one passes away, and it might just be too much for you to go in and deal with the family house, especially if you grew up there. Having been through this in some fashion, I can tell you it's not easy. It's very painful and it's emotionally exhausting. So maybe you're just not up for it. So you could just say, you know what, let's just put it on the market and be done with it. There's the stress or guilt if you're moving parents to assisted living. And on top of all what you're already dealing with mom and or dad, you just can't. So that is a great chance. You're overwhelmed. You're trying to balance everything that you've got going on with this now prospect of going through your old house or going through mom and dad's house. There's so many layers to it that at that point, it might be more healthy for you to just say, you know what, I know we're going to take a little bit of a hit on the price, but I gotta move on. I have to deal with this. Okay. So lots and lots of emotional reasons why you might want to sell as is versus going through the rest of the process. Then there are financial realities. You could be limited. You might not have the money to invest in even the basic repairs. You might also be scared of what else you're going to find. If you start going through this house, who knows? And you just want to throw your hands up and be done with it because you know you don't have the money to look into it, much less deal with whatever you find. And then you've got sort of the fear of the unknown. Is this going to turn into a money pit and I'm going to spend money to fix it, money that I don't have? Maybe I put it on a credit card, but then I don't get it back when I sell. So that's another big problem. If you're in that financial tight situation, that's an as is clear. So the bottom line is, you just want out. So why not approach the entire sales process from the I'm selling as is angle? If you know this coming in, you can approach it with your realtor, or if you're doing it on your own, from an as is playbook. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Something else to keep in mind is that selling as is does not have to mean no prep. Now, if you are one of those out-of-towners, or you physically can't bring yourself emotionally or whatever to go into the house, I would strongly urge you, and then I'll shut up about this, to put the most basic prep on this. And here's how you do it if you have even the tiniest amount of money and you don't want to go in or can't go in for one reason or another. And so this is kind of my step-by-step process for selling as is, moving tiny levers that get huge results. So here we go. Number one, depersonalize. And the goal here is to stop people from stealing your stuff and avoid turning off buyers. The first thing to do is either you or somebody needs to go in and remove any documents, paperwork, old bills, diplomas, anything that could lead an identity thief to pay dirt. Maybe you're thinking, yeah, let them steal my identity. I don't really care. Trust me, even if you have nothing to steal, it is a pain in the butt. So you don't want to go down that road. All right. The next thing you want to do is remove anything that's sentimental. And that's going to be tough if you're not there, but maybe you can remember a few things from the house that you really don't want to see just end up in the trash heap or end up on eBay or wherever it's going to end up. So maybe make a list of those, have somebody go in and do that. If you can do it yourself, so much better. But if you can't, I understand. And then Remove any weird stuff that might turn buyers off. This would be a shrine to maybe a dead actor. I've seen some strange stuff in my time. How about the guy who collected chewed gum from famous landmarks? Yeah, you know what? Might be time to part ways with that. And that should end up in the dumpster or on eBay if you can make some money. But anyway, anything that's really going to be easy to remove that will have a disproportionate effect on potential buyers. So that's something to keep in mind. As most of you know, we don't run paid ads for our real estate company or for this podcast. We rely on people talking to people, word of mouth. So if you find any of this content useful, would you mind please take a few seconds and rate the show? I'd consider it a personal favor. All right, back to your regularly scheduled podcast. Number 2, declutter. The goal of decluttering is to make the house look bigger. And you're probably going to have to deal with that stuff anyway at some point. Whether you deal with it personally or you get somebody to deal with it, it's still going to happen. So if you can deal with it, if you know you're going to have to clean that place out at some point and you're going to hire somebody to do it, this is the time. Don't wait until after the sale. Do it before the sale. It will increase the value to buyers. So start with removing anything that you or your folks, if they are involved, or your siblings, if they're involved, anything they want. Make sure that if you're done with it, just let them have it. Just great. Go in, pillage the place. If you have a pecking order, perhaps you feel like this relative should get first crack at it, fine. Put a lockbox on the place or have somebody on TaskRabbit do it for you, and then send them through. Schedule dates, give them the lockbox code, and turn them loose. Go in, get what you want. Let me know when you're done, and then I'll send in the next relative. You can do that. If you have other heirs or relatives to walk through, just keep working through that list until it's exhausted. You will probably have removed a fairly significant portion of what's in the house. You can also have someone, and people will do this online for you. Once you've removed all the identity stuff and once you've removed all the sentimental stuff, you don't care about the rest. So have someone go in and host a moving sale. They can do that. There are also auction companies who will go in. They will photograph and maintain the entire auction for you. You don't even have to be there. These companies are out there. There are people who will solve any problem you have. So once you had your moving sale or maybe an auction, call up a Goodwill, call up a church, call up a Salvation Army, and ask them to go in and take whatever they want. And at that point, you've reduced what's in there probably significantly. Now, if these are true hoarders and you've got, piles of 30-year-old newspapers, you're probably going to have to pay somebody to clean it out, but it's worth it because truth number 6, more buyers equals more money for you. And if you turn off buyers by seeing the sheer volume of hoarded material that's still in the house, you're going to get a lot less money than whatever it would cost you to spend to go have somebody take it out. Last resort, you can't get anything moved. You don't have the money to get it moved. Nobody wants the stuff that's in there. Then you're going to have to sell it truly as is at that point. And you can explain to people the house is full of stuff that will attract certain people. People are strange. Maybe somebody wants that chewing gum collection. I don't know. If you happen to get it cleaned out, at least reasonably, it's going to look bigger. It's going to look better. It's going to bring more money. The third move is to clean it. Now, I am by no means asking you to clean the house because we've already talked about all the reasons why you don't want to or can't do that. But the goal of a clean home is to instantly increase the value for no work on your part and very little money. Now, you can do this through the barter system. I don't know what you do for a living. I don't know what kind of stuff you have that people want, but you can trade. You can absolutely trade whatever services you offer or products you offer, if that's your deal. If you don't have anything like that, then work something out where maybe they get paid after you do, after the home sells. That can certainly be arranged because the home is going to sell. There's no doubt about it. So if you talk to somebody, they may charge you a little more for this, but most cleaning companies have a home prep package. And the return on investment for that is usually very, very good. The yard and exterior. Almost every buyer drives by a home before they set up an appointment. Now, not always true, but almost every buyer does. So if you can get a little tidying done on the landscaping, maybe pressure washing, whatever. And again, I'm not asking you to do all this, but approach these companies. If there are 30 or 40 landscaping / pressure washing companies in town, I promise you one of them will take your get paid at closing deal. Might be a new business model for them. You don't know. That is how you get it done. Worst case, you could also give them a credit card or a check to hold until after closing. I'm not saying though, most of them won't do it. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. But landscaping companies almost all have a pre-sale or spring cleanup package that they can do for a very reasonable price. Again, huge return on investment there. And then my final, and this may take some phone calls, is a pre-sale home inspection. Now, this sounds very counter to what I was mentioning earlier, especially if you're one of those who fears what's under the carpet, so to speak, what's in the closet, what's behind the curtain. But you're not going to fool buyers into thinking there's nothing wrong just because you didn't look. Buyers are going to look. They are assuming a ton of risk. And if they're experts on it, that's fine. If they rehab homes for a living, they're not going to be afraid of it. But all buyers, whether they're rehabbers or whether they're just retail buyers who want to put some sweat equity in, then those buyers will appreciate the fact that you took the time to get a pre-sale home inspection, because now you've essentially handed them a to-do list. Here's what's wrong with the house. Here's what needs to be done. And the right buyers are going to rise up and appreciate that. And that will return because it's going to get you more buyers. And remember, truth number 6, more buyers equals more money. All good things for you. All right. A pre-sale home inspection is going to cost you probably $2 to $3, maybe $400. But again, call around, see if they'll get paid at closing, or if they've got some other way you can work out payment. I don't know. Maybe they just be happy letting you put a sign in the yard, pre-inspected by XYZ inspections, report available, that kind of thing. That kind of creative guerrilla marketing will definitely have an impact. And I promise you, some enterprising entrepreneur out there who runs one of these companies is going to be very interested in this. Make the calls, even if it's not in your town. Call the neighboring towns. Go out 20, 30, 40 miles. I know inspectors will travel up to an hour, especially when they're new and starting out. So there's a number of ways you can go online and diagnose landscape companies, cleaning companies, and inspectors who are new, hungry, willing to make a deal. You look for ones that are brand new in business. Look for ones that have no online reviews. Not bad ones, not good ones, none. That means they're probably new. So something to think about. When it comes to presenting, we'll talk a little bit about marketing here in a minute, but don't pass up the layups. I was just talking to my sister about this the other day, that people let so many layups go by, not just in home selling, but in general, in life. You've got a problem that could be solved with a phone call or text message, and yet you put it off. That's a layup. You missed a layup. You didn't even take the layup. Easy wins. So don't pass up the layups. And everything I just described is a layup. Easy wins make a huge difference. And another note here, if it smells bad in there, do your best to fix that, or get somebody in there to fix that. It is a huge deal killer. Even the most experienced rehabbers, if they don't know the source of the smell, it's going to either cause them to walk away, which truth number 6. But anyway, if they do buy, odds are they're going to offer you a lot less. Smells just have a disproportionate impact on the sale of a home. And if you know something is toxic or harmful in there and you can't fix it, be very loud about it. Don't just disclose it in the disclosure form. Be very, very loud about that problem, because you want to attract the right buyer. But speaking of disclosure, when you're selling as is, it is highly, highly critical that you disclose everything you know that's wrong with that property. And I get it. The Ohio Residential Property Disclosure Form asks if you lived in the home. And odds are, in this case, you never did. So you're technically off the hook by saying, well, I never lived in the home, because most of the rest of the 4 pages say things like, do you know of any? Have you experienced any? Well, if you never lived in the house, I get it. Legally, you're probably off the hook. But morally, karmically, if you know something is wrong with that house, I am begging you to disclose it and get to the bottom of it if you can. So disclosure, boy, have I talked a lot about disclosure. Disclosure builds trust with buyers, and it also reduces renegotiating or deals just completely falling apart and wasting everybody's time. Years ago, I wrote this scenario about you go on a first date, you've done a little time, but it's deep in your past. So you go on a first date. It might be a good time if things are going well and you think there might be a second date. This would probably be a good time to say to that person, hey, by the way, I've had a bit of a checkered past. I've made some mistakes. I've paid for those mistakes, and I have set my life on the right track, but I just thought you should know before we continue. All right, that's I'm not saying it's easy, but it's critical, because here's the thing. Let's say you don't tell them about that and you move ahead and you have date number 2, date number 6. I promise you, at some point, your checkered past is going to show up. It's going to come out one way or another. It's going to come out, especially in 2025, when, all information is at your fingertips. I could probably go into ChatGPT right now and say, hey, can you run a background check on blah, blah, blah? Who knows? I've never tried it, but it might be a fun exercise. Either way, my point is that the longer you wait, the worse it is. So let's just fast forward. It's right before the wedding. And all of a sudden, for one reason or another, the truth comes out. Now you've got a wedding to pay for that's probably not paid for. You've got a cake that's ordered. You got flowers. You got people coming in. And odds are that wedding's not going to happen, or at least not today. It's not going to happen. So you could have avoided all that by popping this out during the first date. But let's keep going. Let's say you get married and a couple of years in, maybe you apply for some sort of thing and it requires a background check, and here it comes. Now you're married. Now we're talking about getting lawyers involved if this doesn't go well, all because you didn't tell them. Let's keep going. Maybe you got a couple of kids and it comes out for some reason, years and years later. Now you're talking about destroying all kinds of lives. So the thing is, like I said, that information is going to show up on your spouse's radar at some point. How much better would it have been if the day before the wedding, or a couple of years after you got married, or after you had a couple of kids, when that information did show up and your spouse knew about it because you told them years ago, and they go, oh yeah, I knew about that. And that's it. It's done. It's over with. Well, guess what? Sorry, that was a long way around the barn. But guess what? The same is true for the stuff you decide not to disclose about your house. Quick parallel. Here we go. You tell them about it up front. Hey, this house has a leaky roof. Or this house, when it rains, gets water in the basement. Great. You've told them. Will some of them walk away? Yes. Will your date possibly get up and walk out and never want to see you again? Sure thing. Absolutely, that's a possibility. But guess what? That person wasn't the one for you. And this house is not the one for them. But let's fast forward anyway. You don't tell them and they don't figure it out. Now we're in the inspection phase, or we're getting closer to closing, and it comes out. Maybe they talk to someone, or maybe they notice something on the third visit, or who knows. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, wait a minute. This house has a leaky roof. This house has a leaky basement. You didn't tell them. Now we got problems. You've wasted 2-3 weeks. They might come after you for the cost of the inspections. Who knows? But it could have been avoided had you just disclosed it. If you disclosed it and they said, that's fine, we know, and then they move forward, nothing to gripe about. Let's keep going. They buy the house. They move in. They find out during the first rainstorm that it has a leaky roof or that it has a leaky basement. And they're griping about it over the fence to the neighbor. And the neighbor says, oh yeah, man, they've been dealing with that for years. Oh, so now you got a real problem. Or my favorite, they call up a local contractor to say, hey, what would it cost to fix this? And the contractor comes out and goes, hey, I've been here before. I quoted this 3 years ago for the Johnsons. So not only did you know about it, you knew how much it was going to cost to fix, and you knew it before you put it on the market. Guess what you've got now? A lawsuit. Either the neighbor who will testify or the contractor who's got the original bid. These are all bad things that could have been avoided had you just told everybody, hey, it's got this problem and I can't or won't fix it. Can we all move on? Because if that buyer moves on, you're golden. Very good. All right. So there's my rant on full disclosures. If you have any paperwork, any recent inspections, like maybe I mentioned a presale inspection, if possible, to show good faith, how and when a problem surfaces absolutely alters the impact on the buyer and the deal. So problems discussed before the offer also seem a lot smaller to buyers than they do later, because now they've added on the interest of time and injustice, and karma is real. So every problem you point out from a practical standpoint, every problem you disclose prior to the offer is no longer fodder for the offer or any renegotiation during inspections or anything like that. Once you've told them, you are off the hook. You cannot be held accountable either by price or by legal means for that problem because you legitimately told them. And get it in writing, so much the better. Let's move on. Who buys an as-is home and how do we attract them? Because most real estate advertisements are not for as-is properties. Although, if I were smart, I would go to places like Realtor.com and Zillow, and if you have access to the MLS or you have an agent who can do it for you, have them search for the word as-is. Just put quote, A-S space I-S, end quote, in your search bar and see what happens. Look for sold homes that sold at or above listing, or maybe the closer, just like any comp. If you can get close to your neighborhood or your type of property, even better, because now you're really going to see. Look for the words they use. Look for the types of photos they used. If they were successful selling as is, well, success leaves clues. So you can use those clues to model your own as is campaign. All right. Buyers who are interested in as-is properties are typically people looking for a fixer-upper. This would be, maybe they're just starting out. They don't have a ton of money, but they've got a lot of time, and they've got a lot of energy, and a lot of friends who will help them. That's how my first house was. The 1996 special, way out in North Liberty. And this was clearly the worst house on the block, but it was a really nice block. And the house had just been dilapidated for some years. My favorite is when we first went to look at the house, there was a sticker on the front door, right on the window of the front door, that said, warning. What a great way to open. Warning, this house has, and then a line, like where you write in, it says, this house has blank uncaged birds living here. Okay, so they're telling you up front that there are uncaged birds living in the house. The number on top of that line was handwritten. It said 27. There were 27 uncaged birds at one point living in that house. The house was vacant when we looked at it. But I'll tell you what, it smelled like 27 birds had been living there. It was really bad. And I'm telling you, there weren't just birds living in that house based on what we found later. Either way, we were in a place, it was our first house. We had saved some down payment money. But we also had friends and parents who were willing to help us if we found a fixer-upper in our price range that we could work on over time. We just needed to be structurally sound, and it had a decent roof, had old windows, which we ended up replacing later, but the electrical and plumbing were pretty good. The floors were pretty good. So everything all being equal, it was just a place that needed a ton of love, a ton of cleaning, and we got a great deal on it. We were the perfect buyer for that. This episode of Talking Realty is brought to you by our friends at Associates Title. This team is shaking things up by focusing on what truly matters, putting the customer first. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing for sale by owner, or working with a realtor, they've got your back with incredible cost savings and the latest tech to streamline the process. Their secure online portal keeps everyone in the loop, from buyers and sellers to lenders and agents, all while keeping your data safe and communications crystal clear. If you're getting ready to make a move, do not underestimate the importance of having a great title company in your corner. Check them out today at associatestitleinc.com or call my friend Ryan Phillips at 614-419-2418. Check the show notes for that information. Don't leave your title company choice to chance, and definitely don't let the buyer or their agent make it for you. All right, back to the show. Also, a lot of investors are seeking rental properties to fix up. My dad bought tons of these when I was growing up. Just go buy a dilapidated house, it's got decent bones, go in, do the run on it, put it, paint, carpet, fix it, whatever needs to be done, and then rent it and make your money back. Have the renter make your house payment, so to speak. Also flippers. We have tons of clients that are flippers. They go in, they buy these foreclosures, they buy these flips, and then they rehab them. They gut them, they rehab them, and they sell them, and they make good money doing it. Also, any budget conscious buyer, maybe they really, really want to live in that particular location. So they're willing to buy because they want that. They'll compromise everything else to get into that neighborhood. So there's that. So lots and lots of possibilities. They've got the money to fix it up. They've got whatever, but they really want to be in that neighborhood. So you don't know. You don't know what people's motivations are. Maybe it's close to work, close to a particular relative or school or something like that. Who knows? But what they look for is potential. They look for equity potential. They look for location. They look for unique features. So these are the things you're going to highlight. These are the good things you're going to pull out and say, this is a 2,000 square foot home in the Sherwood Oaks location, and it's got access to the local pool, or it's right on the water, or whatever. You're going to sell the location of this thing. You're going to sell the potential of it. The other thing you can do is look for the post-rehab price. And these automated value models are out there. When you're looking for comps, you can do this on Realtor and Zillow. You can go search your neighborhood for sold properties. You can look for things. If you have access to the MLS, look for sold property around there, and then start looking for the ones that have been rehabbed and see what sort of cost per square foot or overall price they bring to show the potential. You're going to advertise that potential, that yes, it's selling for XYZ, but it could be worth XYZ plus up to this range. Those are all things you can back up with data. So it's just something to keep in mind. And The other thing these buyers look for, besides equity potential or location or unique features, is they look for transparency. What is all wrong with this house? Because if they catch you in a lie or they catch you with something stupid early in the process, well, truth number 9, how you do anything is how you do everything. And people know that, whether they know my favorite little truth number 9 or not. Buyers don't want to be suckers, and they're constantly on the lookout for things that might make them suckers. Truth number 4, buyers look for reasons not to buy. Okay, so that's the type of buyer we are looking for, is that person that sees the potential, that person that's willing to do the sweat equity, the person who's willing to take a chance and invest, the person who really, really, really wants to live in that neighborhood. So those are the things we're going to talk about. Those are the things we're going to highlight. So next up, let's talk about how to price one of these. Like I said, it doesn't have to be fire sale. If there's anything I've learned over the last quarter of a century, we'll say, in this business and several thousand deals, is that it doesn't matter. It only matters if you overprice it. Overpricing is what hurts you. Pricing it right or underpricing is going to get you the similar results, but not as catastrophic as overpricing. Overpricing is just the bane of my existence. The house is worth what it's worth. You can peak that with a few things I talked about earlier with the prep phase. You can peak it with your good marketing, your good description, your good photos. You can get to the peak level. You could push to the top range, because market value for any property is not a binary number. It's not a single digit. It is a range. So market value for a house is going to be from here to here. If you're on YouTube watching me, I'm doing little things with my hand to show you down here and up here. If you're on YouTube, sorry for the audio explanation of what you're watching. Regardless, your goal is to get to the top of that band, to the top of that range. And you do it using these techniques I've showed you here. Anybody can spend $1 million to make the house worth more. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about doing some basic things that will get you a disproportionate return on investment. Well, pricing is one of those things. It is an absolute step off the cliff. I get it. And I've heard this over and over and over. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. When you price a home, you're taking a leap of faith. You're putting a stamp on it that says, I think it's worth this. What do you think, buyers? That's the implied question. When you price a home, put it on the market, that's what you're asking. What do you guys think? Well, let me tell you, there are 3 possible scenarios. Number 1, you priced it too high. And you would be shocked at how many sellers tell me, yeah, I did that on purpose. I literally just had a realtor call me up, list a house with me. The house had been listed for several months with another realtor and it didn't sell. So here comes the listing, and the realtor says to me, who is my new client, says to me, yeah, I know it's overpriced. I did that on purpose. I wanted to leave room for negotiating. Okay, sellers, I get it. Untrained, inexperienced sellers, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with it, but I understand it. A realtor who's in the business telling me I priced it too high to leave room for negotiation. What's the old hello, McFly? Is anybody in there? Hey, that doesn't work. And your first clue should have been when you put it on the market and nothing happened. All right, so scenario 1, you price it too high for whatever reason. You priced it too high, either accidentally or on purpose. You priced it too high. You get nothing. You get crickets. You get silence. You get no showings. You get no questions. You get no offers. And if you have access to your web stats, you're going to see a bunch of views. You're going to see a whole bunch of views. Probably not very many clicks, no showings, and definitely no offers. That's what happens when you price too high. When you price it just right, you're going to get a reasonable number, 2 to 4%. Click-through rate of those, 1 to 5% of those may actually come through and put in an offer. Okay, that's average pricing. If you get it right, if you price it at the very top of market value, you're going to get sort of a flaccid response, but you're going to get a response. You're going to get showings. You're probably going to get an offer. It's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of what you're asking, and you're going to be validated, but it probably won't be at the top of what it could have been. You know how to get top market value besides great marketing and great prep? Underprice the house. Truth number 6, more buyers equals more offers equals more money for you. We always shorten that to more buyers equals more money. When you underprice a property, the market spots it and reacts. And just like an auction, people go crazy. This is why you see stuff on eBay all the time that's worth, say, $100, that the starting bid is $1, because they're trying to attract as many people as possible to get as many eyeballs on this thing as possible. So we start a bidding war, and all we need are 2 little buyers to decide they want that thing, and then it's off to the races. Maybe other bidders fall off. This happens a lot. We get into multiples. We start with 6 or 8 offers, and then as it continues on and we're going up and up, 4 or 5 of those offers fall away until we have a winner, or we have 2 people fighting it out at the end. Okay. That's how you get that. You don't get it by pricing average. You don't get it by pricing too high. You get it by pricing too low. So while I'm telling you, you're not going to get fire sale, if you price it at fire sale, you're going to actually increase the number of buyers and therefore the number of offers and ultimately the amount of money you make off this property. It is very risky feeling, but it is not risky because truth number one, the market never lies. The market never lies, not ever. I don't care how crappy this house is. Whatever your offers come through and say it's worth, that's what it's worth today. Doesn't mean you got to take it. You can wait. You can wait if you want, but I'm talking to people who want to sell right now as is. The market never lies. You're getting today's price because today's market is responding. Most home sellers dread the inspection and appraisal issues. Our digital course, Living to Listing, teaches you how to turn any property into the perfect listing. So you sail through inspections, sail through appraisals, sell faster and for more money with a lot fewer headaches, by the way. In Living to Listing, you're going to get dozens of checklists. You're going to get tools. You're going to get walkthrough videos from yours truly for every single step of the way. And here's my promise. If this course doesn't meet your high standards, let me know. If this course doesn't make you money, save you time, help you avoid headaches, let me know. Not only will I give you a complete refund, I'll let you keep the course. That's how confident I am. You literally have nothing to lose. So check out the free videos today at Living to Listing. That's livingtolisting.com. Let me know what you think. All right. If you want help pricing this thing because you're clueless, because you inherited it, because you live out of state, because you never deal with this stuff, get a hold of us. I don't care where you are in the world. Yeah, I do. I don't care where you are in, say, the United States. We can access the models for that house and show you. I'm not going to know anything about San Diego, California, but I could point you in the right direction. How's that? But if you're in Ohio, definitely get a hold of me because I do know a lot about Ohio and I can tell you lots of stuff. I can give you a much, much, much deeper dive once you list with us. Adjust for the condition and highlight the potential. So talk about the good things, but adjust for reality. Adjust for the fact. Whatever number you finally come up with, seller, listen to me now. Whatever number you come up with in your mind, this is what I think it's going to sell for. Do yourself a favor. Knock off 5% and put it out there. Knock off 5% and put it out there. You're going to get mad at me because if you get an offer for that 5% lower, you're going to fool yourself into thinking, man, if I had left it higher, I'd have gotten an offer for that. No, you wouldn't have. You wouldn't have. And I promise you, you wouldn't have gotten any offers, or you would have gotten that same 5% off offer, maybe even lower. I don't know. When in doubt, price it low, below what you think it's worth. This is how you start a bidding war, folks. When you price it low and market it well, you start a bidding war. If you come out, if you get no takers, if you think you priced it too low and you get no takers, you were wrong. Okay. Truth number two, if it ain't selling, it's overpriced, period. Adjust, do it again. We call it the 1-2 punch. Midweek, lower the price and then announce an open house if you're doing open houses. If you're not, just lower the price, announce a new offer deadline. Okay. If you don't get any offers by your deadline, go in, remove the offer deadline, wait a week, lower the price, announce a new offer deadline. That's my revised 1-2 punch, my no touch as is 1-2 punch. So let me say that again. When you put it out there, if you're not doing an open house for lots of reasons, and that's okay, put it out there on like a Wednesday or Thursday. And then Friday, I want you to go in and announce all highest and best offers due by Sunday night. If you get no offers, Monday, go in, remove that language about the highest and best, wait a week. And then the following week, the midweek, say Wednesday, Thursday, announce a price change. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, sometime in there. And then again, on the following Friday, this is 2 Fridays later, announce highest and best offers all due by Sunday night. Guess what? Some people will see that you did this once before and they may call you out on it. Let them. I don't care because enough new buyers will see it and go, oh, I better get in on this. It will work. It'll work a lot better than not doing it. How's that? As far as the marketing goes, beyond pricing and all the stuff we've talked about, I want you to get a little more detailed. I want you to highlight the location, the potential value, the layout, the size, anything that's great about it. Maybe it's the proximity to great restaurants or to a huge office where lots of people work, or ice cream shops. Maybe it's got amazing ice cream shops right around it. That would be attractive to, say, some people, maybe me. Anyway, saying in the description that the property, this is critical, you must say in the public and private description, the property is being sold as is. There are 2 reasons you want to do this. Number 1, I want you to attract the right buyer, the people we talked about earlier. And number 2, I want to repel the wrong buyers. Now, I get that this is flying in the face of many of my other truths. More buyers equals more, but these are not buyers. Okay. Now, if they're interested, if they're at all even thinking maybe I can make this work, they're going to reach out. But if somebody is looking for turnkey, looking for beautiful, move in ready, you do not want them. You don't want them on your radar. They're not going to make an offer. They're not going to drive any business. And in fact, if you do happen to have an open house and you attract some of these people, they're going to cost you money. They're going to cost you other buyers, because these people on the fence that are thinking, yeah, we can probably make this work, standing in an open house, listening to this highfalutin couple talk about how terrible this place is. Oh my God, I would never live here. Okay, well, people want what other people want. The opposite is true. People often don't want what other people don't want. So you don't need their negative mojo in your house. So I'm going to say, in this as is case, I need you to be very upfront about the fact that it's as is. You know what's funny is we'll get turnkey properties, absolutely spotless, immaculate, totally remodeled. You know what? We talk about that. We talk about the fact that it's completely remodeled. Well, the silent thing that people miss is that you are also repelling buyers with that message. You are repelling these buyers. People are looking to make money. People are looking to put in sweat equity. People are looking to get into a particular neighborhood at a bargain. They're not going to look at that house. They already know they're not the buyer. So you are also repelling. When you take a position in your marketing that says this house is beautiful or this house has some warts, you're taking a position in your marketing. That's okay. So I need you to say the property is being sold as is. You're going to attract the right buyers and, more importantly, repel the wrong buyers. Time is your enemy if that's one of the reasons why you're selling. Think about it. If you attract a bunch of the wrong buyers, you're going to have to answer a bunch of questions you don't want to answer. I'm just saying, do this. Trust me on this. Photography. This is a tricky one because if the house is a real shithole, I think you should photograph it anyway. For the same reasons I want you to call out the as is. I'm not saying you should have bad photography. You could still have good photography of a bad situation. So my point is, if you've done any of the cleanup on the outside, obviously a good front street view photo is going to help you a lot. It's going to attract more business. If you haven't done it and you're not going to do it, well, you're going to have to put a photo in anyway, because the odds of somebody even being interested in a home with no photo is astronomical. In fact, most MLSs don't even allow it. If you're going to put a property in the MLS without a photo, you have to sign a waiver because the MLS knows what a terrible idea this is. People won't even click on it. They just won't. So don't do it. Put some sort of photo out there. Don't doctor it either. Put it out there. Put it in its best light. Take a photo during a sunny day, when it looks decent. I hate street view clips because they look like street view clips. Don't use those. So try to get a decent front photo and then get as many other photos as you can. Don't have to overdo it. If you've got a bad looking kitchen, 1 or 2 photos of the bad looking kitchen will suffice. If you've got a problem because the mechanicals are really old and maybe they don't work, yeah, I don't need a picture of a non-working furnace, but I need you to call it out. But if you've got something decent in the house that is, maybe it's a cluttered house that has decent mechanicals, that has new windows, highlight those things. So highlight the good and expose the bad, either in writing or if you feel it's really warranted, then take a photo of it. But you should still have good quality photography. We talk about this. I'll link to it in the show notes, but I have a photography checklist that we give out. It's by no means exhaustive, but it'll give you some basic pointers on how to take decent photos if you're going to do it yourself. Okay. The other great thing about photography that's comprehensive is it slows down the questions during the offer phase. So if people want to know about the backyard, because let me back up. A lot of your investors who are going to buy this are going to buy it sight unseen. They're going to buy it off of the web, and then they're going to put in some sort of walkthrough, or they're going to have their contractor walk through it. We have this all the time. Out-of-state investors, heavy cash investors, they have somebody on the ground who's going to do the work. They'll call them up. I don't know how they make them do it, but they somehow get them convinced. We have contractors, plumbers, painters, people walking through that house before the investor makes the offer. So photos can help with some of that. Moving on to the showings, I would say your best bet, if it's vacant, which I'm sure it is, put a lockbox on it. Set your showings to what's called go and show. If you're using showing time, if you're listed, if you're for sale by owner, there's other precautions, and I don't necessarily want to get into that because there's a lot of security reasons why you don't want to be giving out lockbox codes. But if you have a trusted friend or neighbor or somebody you're paying, you can pay somebody to go open the door. Just wait for somebody to leave and then make sure it's locked. That way you're only giving the lockbox code to one person. So that's certainly an option. But if you're in showing time, there's a setting called Go and Show where realtors can go in, book a showing, and then they immediately get approved. This is good because you don't want any delays. You don't want to have to fool with approving. You're going to get notified. So-and-so from XYZ Realty showed the house at 4:00. You're going to get notified immediately. If you have these documents we talked about earlier, the property disclosures, any inspection reports, any quotes you've had, make any documents you have available. So the way you do this, if you're listed with a realtor, you can add them to what's called the supplemental documents section of the MLS, meaning other realtors can tap in there and they can see. They can download it, share it with their buyers, and then you're off to the races. But if you're by owner, or if you have people coming through that are not represented by a realtor, you still need a way to get them these documents. So what I would suggest is leaving a sign-up sheet out at the house that someone will collect for you that says, if you want copies of all this stuff, put your name, your phone number, and your email address right here, and I'll get them for you. This is also a great hint if you're running open houses on a not as is house. Always give them a reason to give you their real contact information. Open house sign-up sheet. I beat this to death in another episode, but if you can give them a real reason to put down their real information, that's so much the better. But anyway, the other thing you can do is just leave a sign there that says head to this website or email me at this email address and I'll send you the stuff. So lots of ways to do it without spending money on paper. The other thing you want to do at the house is leave very, very clear instructions on what to do if they want to make an offer. So you can do this with framed documents. You can do it on your marketing, whether it's on the web or through the MLS. You can tell people, go here to make an offer, or email offers here, or text me for information, whatever you want. You can put all that stuff out there so people can access it. And you can leave it at the house too. I like to frame things at the house because it makes it less likely somebody's going to steal it. If you leave it just a piece of paper out, some jerkwad agent or buyer is going to think, oh, well, I'll take this and nobody else can see it. So don't do that. Put it in a frame or somehow make it permanently. If the house is bad enough, you can just write it on the wall, but whatever. But make sure buyers have clear instructions on what to do when it comes time to make an offer. So we've got you prepped as much as we can. We've got you on the market and we're getting some showings done. Let's talk about negotiating. When you're selling an as-is property, it is entirely possible that you're going to get some bottom feeders who are going to try to lowball you. So if you get those offers, if you've got other offers, all you need to do is tell the lowball offer, hey, I've got offers on the table right now that are significantly higher than this. And just leave it at that. If you want to go further, you can say, I reject you. Or if you want to put in a better offer, great. If not, have a nice day. If you want to put a bow on it, I prefer to just say, hey, I've got offers higher than this already. And just leave it at that. Let their imagination run wild. They may come back. How high are they? Do they have this? Nope. I'm not, naturally, I can't get into that. If you want to make a better offer, let me know. Otherwise, have a nice day. If they don't worry about them. They weren't your buyer. So there's that. If you get that lowball offer and you have no other offers, well, then you're going to need to adjust your mindset, because either you're going to have to negotiate down closer to their level, or you're going to have to wait. All right. We call this the daily choice for sellers. Sellers call us up. They want to know, hey, what's going on with my house? And I give them the same two options I give everybody. Well, you have two choices. You can lower your price to energize today's market, or you can wait, see what tomorrow's market looks like. Tomorrow might be 6 months from now, but I'm okay because I'm indifferent. My priorities are the same as my sellers. If my seller wants a certain dollar amount, well, that's what I'm after then. If it takes them 6 months to get it, then it does. I'm okay with that. But if the seller's priority is to sell right freaking now, well, then guess what? We need to adjust if that's what you want to do. But the point is, every day, if you don't have another offer, this is your best buyer until you have another buyer. So you can either engage with them or you can wait. If you decide to engage that buyer, please make them a sensible counteroffer. Don't be a jackass. Don't be yelling at them. Don't be, oh my God, this is insulting. That serves no one. Okay. Let them do what they're going to do. But then in your case, give them an offer you would accept and see if you guys can put it together. If you can't, you can't. No harm done. If you don't ask, the answer is no. You're also going to get people who want to make offers and then renegotiate later, especially if you're in a bidding war. If you're in a bidding war, please pay attention. Buyers will come in higher than they intend to pay with a game plan in mind on how they're going to get down to the price they want to pay, but only after they've locked it up on paper and all the other buyers have disappeared. That's when they've got you alone. That's when you're much more vulnerable. So you need to clear all that out before you sign. The way you do that, if you're planning on having a no inspection clause, You need to be very loud about that. So not only are you talking about it's as is, and by the way, here are all the warts through your disclosure, but do your due diligence before the offer deadline. Buyers, please, all due diligence due before the offer. So it puts the onus on the buyer. Now, this will cost you some buyers, but hopefully it will only cost you the wrong buyers. If they don't want to do inspections, if they don't want to spend a few $100s doing inspections until after they get you under contract, beware. Now, if that's the only offers you're getting, you can let all those buyers know, hey, we're going to prioritize those who do their due diligence ahead of time. I'm not asking you to waive inspections. I'm just telling you to do them before I commit to your price, because I don't want to be back here in 2 weeks going through all this when I'm not in the middle of a bidding war. This is the time to do it. So if you can get offers without inspections, great. If you end up having to take an offer with an inspection contingency, you need to let them know up front. And I use the following language: at this price, we want to be 100% transparent that we will have no more room for further negotiations after inspections. This has been a very effective clause for us, because sometimes we've got houses that are beautiful, but we've had a protracted bidding situation or one buyer who's put us through the ringer for 7 days of negotiations. And now we're down to the seller's true bottom. And I'll have my seller say to me, hey, Glenn, before we take this deal, they need to understand I'm not dealing with their inspection problems. Okay, well, there's a wrong way to say that, which is, hey, inspect, but don't bother because we're not doing anything. The right way to do it is to say this: hey, inspect all you want, and we'll certainly, make room for that in the contract. However, I want you to understand at this price, we want to be 100% transparent that we have no more room for further negotiations after inspections. They have that choice to walk away or move forward as is. But let's say they find something you didn't know about that is truly something. They got mold, or we found a broken pipe in the crawl space. Well, two things. One, you can't unknow that. Now that you know it, you have to disclose it legally. And if your realtor has any hope of hanging on to their license, they have to disclose it whether you want to or not. So you're now stuck with that. Okay, so there's that. That's why you want to do a pre-inspection, so you know all the surprises ahead of time. But if they come back with a true material, meaning it's significant, latent, meaning it was unknown to everyone and not obvious, defect, affects the habitability, the safety, the structure, the environment of the house, you may want to engage that buyer, because you can't sweep this under the rug. You can't just move on to the next buyer unless you say to them, oh, by the way, they found this problem. So they do inspections. You've told them you're not renegotiating, but they find something truly awful. You may want to stick around long enough, because if they're willing to take the house with that problem, they're in a minority. There's probably not too many buyers, depending on how bad the problem is, that will even consider buying the house. It's got a crumbling foundation or it's got toxic mold. If they're willing to buy the house at a cheaper price, and you've looked around and found out that that's not an unreasonable cheaper price, well, Bob's your uncle. Let's say you get together a deal with a no inspection clause, and it's on paper and you're rolling towards closing, and you see something pop in where they want to bring their inspector by, or their contractor, or their plumber, or their whatever, just to get measurements, just to get an idea. If you can't see me right now, I'm using air quotes. You probably heard it. Don't do it. Tell them, no problem. As soon as you take possession of the house, you can inspect and measure all you want. Wow, but we want to get a jump on the carpet. We want to get a jump on materials. I understand that. What measurements do you want? I'll get them for you, or I'll have someone. Do not let them in the house, because here's what's going to happen in about half the cases. They're not just going to measure. They're going to have their contractor start looking around. And we call that an inspection where I come from. You have a deal that says no inspections. You let them in to measure, air quotes again, or I'm just going to get a list of what needs to be done. That's an inspection. If they find something that causes them to get cold feet, truth number 4, buyers look for reasons not to buy, they're going to find a way to wiggle out of that, even if it costs them their earnest money. So what's the point? There's nothing good in it for you. Yeah, you're going to piss them off. You're probably going to rub them the wrong way, but you have a contract to stand on. They don't. You can say, oh yeah, I understand that. Yeah, just as soon as you take possession. If you want to move up closing, we can, so you can get in there sooner. Don't fall for it. Okay, this happens all the time. Hey, I'll tell you what, I'll sign that no inspection contract. Ha ha ha. And then I'll just schedule some innocuous sounding thing, and then I'll get my inspection. And then if it's horrible, I'll get out of the deal. Not on my watch. That's not how we're doing it. So look, your home doesn't have to be perfect before you sell it. It just doesn't. You can sell it as is with minor or no prep, but handle your marketing the right way. Emphasize the good. Tell buyers that this is as is, and be very firm on that. They're not looking for the perfect home. If they were looking for the perfect home and they had a lot of money, they would just build it. But for whatever reason, they're interested in your property. Those buyers are out there. Yes, sometimes waiting until you have the time or money to fix it all up is a good thing. But understand that with that time, there's the time value of money, but there's also the fact that you're carrying that property or somebody's carrying that property. That's taxes, that's insurance, that's interest if there's a mortgage on the property. Small problems while you're waiting, small problems are getting bigger. Inflation is happening. The cost of fixing those problems, the labor and material for fixing those problems is going up while you wait. So these are things you need to consider if you're on the fence. If you think there's a reasonable chance that you'll get to it soon and those things have a good return on investment, those things you're planning to do, by all means, have at it. If you want to do anything, do the prep that I talked about earlier in this episode. Or better yet, pick up my Living to Listing digital course and I'll walk you through the entire process. Do the marketing correctly, handle the negotiations correctly, and I promise you, you will get through this unscathed or minimally scathed. All right. So look, if you want to know more, head over to talkingrealty.com, check the show notes from this page. And then also there's a way to get a hold of me. I'll set aside some time for you and I'll help you because that's what I do here. Selling as is doesn't mean settling for less. It just means you're selling smart if you're doing it correctly. If you're in Ohio, the first step should be call Glenn. Let me help you make this happen. Otherwise, head to Talking Realty, check out the show notes. I'll have some resources there for you. And with that, I'll let you get back to your day. Thanks for sticking around. Hopefully you learned a little something, maybe had some fun. If so, please share this episode with someone or maybe even on the socials. Feel free to tag me if you do. The Talking Realty podcast is brought to you by Associates Title and the Ohio Property Group, a family-owned brokerage serving all 88 Ohio counties with outstanding realtor services. By the way, if you have topics or guests or questions you'd like to see and hear on this podcast in the future, I'd love to hear from you. Just head over to talkingrealty.com and say hello. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, keep making smart moves in your real estate journey. For the Ohio Property Group, this is Glen Whitten signing off. And remember, you can sell it. We can help.